You're listening to the Myerson Line. Life cycles, bicycles, fast lines, and hot takes.
All right, we are live. Welcome to the Myerson Line podcast. This week, our guest is Sam Paulsen. Do you always use your middle name? Samantha Erin Paulsen?
No, just online.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I've never heard anyone say it out loud. But,
yeah, no. And not even Samantha, just Sam.
Yeah, right. I'm going to call you Samantha like you're in trouble.
Uh-huh.
We are part of the Wide Angle Podium Network. That network includes the Slow Ride podcast, Kids Don't Follow, Crosshairs Radio, and the Honest Bicycle program. And according to Spencer, apparently I might make some money off of this at some point.
Nice.
Apparently that only happens if people donate. So I am contractually obligated to do a little shilling at the beginning of every podcast now. If you like the podcast, if you like what you hear, if you like any of the other podcasts, you can go to wideanglepodium.com and donate. And it's apparently an NPR-ish setup. You are obviously clearly not obligated to pay because you're listening now and you didn't pay anything to be here. We actually paid Sam to be here. She didn't want to come.
I really didn't want to do it.
She's very famous. We had to pay her. I had to talk to her manager. Find out.
I haven't seen that check yet, by the way.
What are the gig rates? I had to find out what the rates were. No, she didn't make us pay. So all that aside, all the business formalities, I'm super excited that you agreed to do this. And
of course.
Yeah, I think, it's only our third show and we're still trying to figure out what it is we're going to do with the show, who our guests are going to be. And I think one of the things, feedback I got right away is that people are interested in the diversity of all the things that I could talk about. Let's say the diversity of my taste, and that if my audience is united by bicycles, just interested in bicycles, we do have other things in common, and talking about those things will be interesting. And so you fit into that for me perfectly.
Yep.
And so let me tell everybody a little bit about you and how you fit in, why you fit in, and fill in for me if I get something wrong or I leave something out. But you live in Athens, Georgia, which is where we met.
Yep.
You're a guitar player and sometimes bass player, because you guys change in both of the bands you're in. I feel like you change instruments. Do you change instruments in Man or Astroman?
In Man or Astroman, yes, I play bass for like a couple songs in the set.
Yeah.
Shark didn't. I just was
always
player.
Guitar. Yeah. And so the two important bands I'm sure you've been in. I mean, we could talk about your Hall & Oates project too.
Yeah, and my Andrew WK band too.
Oh, that's right. I didn't see that. I guess I didn't see your Hall & Oates one either, but I was around for that. No. The Andrew WK one that was after. I think I was gone. But the two important bands that I think you're known for, let's say. No, that's not even fair. You're known for these other projects too. People like the other, like, I don't want to call them like joke bands, gag bands, but like they're projects and people are into it.
Yeah, cover bands or,
side projects. We versus the Shark was the first band you were in that I heard when I first came to Athens. And that band broke up, went on hiatus. We'll get to that. And currently you're in Man or Astroman, which is, I'm going to super fan all over you at some point during the show. You know how excited I get about it. You're trained as a nurse. You not that long ago finished a nursing degree. Were you getting your undergrad when we first met? Did you get an undergrad at UGA?
I was at UGA for a couple of years studying nutrition, and then I left it to go to nursing school.
Got it. Okay.
I was at UGA for a little bit.
That's what I thought. You're a baker
a barista. That's how we met. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
We met when I worked downtown.
And for any bike racer who's done Twilight, who's spent any time in Athens at all, Ike and Jane's. You've had donuts at Ike and Jane's. Sam most likely made your donuts and had gone home and got to bed by the time we got there to eat the donuts. Rolling out of bed at 10 o'clock. You are done. Your shift is over.
Yeah.
Is that a good intro?
It's a good intro.
Anything else?
That sums me up nicely, I think.
Yeah, good. And because those are the ways that I know you. You know, that's how I think of you. So what would your mom say? What's your mom call
I think
you?
my mom is listening to this right now. I saw her name on the list.
I saw a Paulsen subscribe, so I thought that might be your mom. Hopefully I didn't bump her. Dan Cody, who is also a fellow Man or Astroman fan, has left a comment for the
message.
People, for the people who listen to the podcast later and can't see. I'll read out the questions. The answer is no, but we'll get to that. That's a good question, but I did want to address that, like how you got to Athens. But because Athens is going to be a character in this story, as I tell your story and make the connection between us. I feel like Athens is a character. It's one of those things
It is. Athens is the reason I am everything I am today, and it's why we met. And it is a character in both of our lives.
Definitely. We'll talk about that. Well, so let's start with how we met, because I think the way the show has gone, I'm bringing like friends that I want to introduce to people on, and starting with how we met is a good one. And we haven't talked about this. I have my version of Dan's pointing out that he is a Sharks fan too. And actually, I remember talking with Dan about, he was mad at me for not telling him about Sharks when he first heard of them. Yeah, he was like, why wouldn't you tell me about this band? It's everything that I love. So, yeah. But yeah, you go first. Do you remember how we met?
How you met? I just remember seeing you when I worked downtown at Espresso Royale. I guess I don't remember the very first or a very specific time, but I remember seeing you every year. And I think every year it was like this big deal when I saw you come in, and I was like, oh yeah, Twilight. Oh yeah, Adam's here. It just became this like routine that happened every year. And it almost felt like you were from Athens or you lived in Athens, you know, like when I would see you, it didn't feel like a year had passed or however long had passed. It was just like, oh yeah, Adam's here. Yeah.
Right. Like weather changing.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly how it was. I mean, that's, you know, once my career was kind of stable, you know, I had a circuit. And there was a certain time of year where if I hadn't spent the winter in Athens, there was a certain time of year that I at least showed up, and it was usually April. April's
Twilight.
That's my month, but I would come for the whole month to train.
Yeah.
There were winters when I first got divorced that I went with the first time I went away. Athens is the place that I sort of ran off to. It was close, you know, one drive, stayed with Jacob Fetty, and then came back the next winter and spent the whole winter there. But then once I started going to Tucson, I wouldn't make my way to Athens until April, and I'd be there, at least for the month of April. But yeah, it was definitely the cafe. And I remember maybe it was the second year I came back. I remember you saying like, oh, you're back. You actually said that to me. And I was like, oh, like, like I was very flattered that you were like, oh, you're back. It's your time. Like I had become a regular at the cafe, even though I hadn't been there in 10 months or whatever. It was like I think that's how Athens is though. You know, if you're anywhere for even a couple days, you're a regular, and then you're just someone who is from Athens, or you're embraced by Athens. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you know how much I love it there, and how much I love my time there. I have my little, you know, my circuit was Tucson for the winter, and then Athens for the spring, and then home for the second half of the year. And Espresso Royale was great and a very important coffee shop, because we had one in Boston too, and they were all completely different, even though it was a chain. Yeah. They were all independently managed and even styled. And there was a group of you in there that was bike friendly, let's say, like into bikes, I felt like, and excited, like even as I got to know you guys, like you guys thought it was cool that I was racing bikes, and I thought it was cool that you were in bands, like, you know, so there was this mutual appreciation, I think. Definitely. I would come work in the cafe. Like that's why I'd be in there so much. It was my mobile office. I'd come do my coaching work, answer my coaching emails and things like that. So yeah, that's it. So I had this impression, like I said, that you guys all liked cycling, and that some of you, like Aaron
and Steven.
her boyfriend. They ride, like they're actually into cycling.
They still do.
Yeah, so I've kept in touch with them obviously as well, and sometimes I see them at races, and they're both so sweet. They're great.
Yeah, Erin's coming back to Athens actually. She's been in Atlanta for a couple years, and she'll be back in a couple weeks. And Steven's still around. Steven still rides, and
So obviously Twilight comes, and for people who don't know Athens and Athens Twilight, it's for the bike racers who've been to criteriums and think they have a sense of like, oh, Athens, it's big criterium. It's different. Athens isn't just a bike race. Would you say it's the biggest event, or is Athfest maybe bigger? Football aside.
Football aside, I honestly think Twilight is bigger. It's a bigger event. Athfest is what it is, and it's a music festival, and there is a lot. It's like a whole weekend sort of thing, a whole week. But Twilight is like this, I don't know, it brings everybody in, and it's this massive thing, especially like the Twilight race, that's when everybody is there and everybody's watching, and it's like a big deal.
Yeah. So it's hard to explain to people that, it's like, it's 10 people deep all the way around the course. And, like the bars extend, or at least they did until they moved the course, but the bars extend their patios all the way up to the course and fence in their bar patio so that you can be in the bar and walk all the way up to the fence.
And once you're in, you're stuck in too, like until the races are over, like you're in it for the whole race.
And Athens is a drinking town, for better or for worse. It's part of the culture of the town, both I think for the college kids and for the townies. Like Athens is a big, we should also clarify, like, when we call someone a townie in Athens, it's so different than the way you use that word in other places.
How's it different in other places? I guess
it's very derogatory in other places, and in Athens, it's only derogatory if you're in a fraternity and you say townie.
Yeah,
but in Athens, everyone sort of aspires. If you're a townie, it means you're loyal to the town outside of the jocks and the fraternities. It means you've committed to staying in Athens for some reason. And so you become a townie. But in other places, it's like fucking townies,
Yeah.
It took me a while to get my head around that, actually. Like, why are you calling them? They're my friends. They're not townies. Like, oh,
it's a good thing here.
Yeah. And so everyone I feel like alcohol is a big part of the culture. Everyone sort of likes to drink, and a lot of things.
It's a college town, and downtown is probably 80% bars. So yeah. It's big.
And so one of the things I like, and part of where I think your connection here comes in, is it's also a great place for music. And we'll talk about Athens Twilight and what a big event it is. But I think it's good to compare it to Athfest and talk about Athfest and talk about how big an event that is for music. And anyone who's a fan of music is familiar with Athens music. At the very least, they know REM, B-52s,
Pylon.
and or I don't know. I feel like there's later bands that have gotten popular as well. But so many bands that you're never going to hear about. Like, there's a music scene there, like there is I think in a major city, like better than other college towns. And Athfest is the place sort of where that. I feel like that all sort of reaches its pinnacle every year.
Yeah.
So that intersection, I feel like those two communities come together, and I just think there's so many cyclists who've stayed in Athens, just like there are people who've come to Athens to make music or play music, stay. And just like lots of bike racers who come for the winter I came to Athens for the first time to do Twilight.
Yeah. And then you stayed for Athfest.
I've never been there for Athfest.
They're always close together.
Yeah. So 1992 was my first Athens Twilight. I was almost 20. I was turning 20. I was still 19. So that's a lot of years. I'm 44 now. I've been coming to Athens for a long time.
Yeah.
So how did you get to Athens? You're not from Athens.
I'm not from Athens. I lived in Texas for a while, but I mostly grew up in I was in bands. I've been in bands since I was 15 or 16. and graduated high school in Colorado. Was in a band at the time and toured a little bit, and then started to go to school and wasn't playing music much. And my family moved away from Colorado, and I ended up moving to Texas for a little while and wasn't doing anything. I was just working a bunch. I didn't find anyone to play music with. I wasn't going into school. So I was kind of in this limbo. I was like 17 or 18 and was like, what am I doing? And at the time, this was before Facebook, and I was on LiveJournal. And one of my favorite bands at the time.
We won't make fun of
Yeah, don't make fun of my LiveJournal time. LiveJournal was big in Athens at the time too, so I'll get to that. So one of my favorite bands at the time was the Dismemberment Plan, and there was a LiveJournal fan site for Dismemberment Plan. And so I met Luke and Jeff, who were in We Versus the Shark. I met them on that LiveJournal fan site. So we started talking, and Luke actually lives in Georgia, or lived at the time, and was going to UGA. He invited us out for one summer, and he's like, hey, we have similar musical interests. You guys aren't in a band right now. I want to play music. Just come out and visit. So Jeff was in New York. I was in Texas. We flew out one summer and played music and visited Athens once. And both Jeff and I kind of looked at each other and were like, we're going to move here, right? Like, this is what we're going to do. It was just like this feeling, like driving into Athens. I remember driving in on 316, and I guess I had never really been to a college town, and I was probably 18 at the time, and drove in, and we walked around campus and walked around downtown and played some music. And I was like, this is where I need to be. This is it. So it was maybe like a month or two later, I had moved out here. And
when was this? What year was that?
2003.
Okay.
So yeah, I flew home from that trip, and my parents were like, oh, how was your trip? And I was like, I'm moving there. And they were like, what, are you serious? And like a month or two later, I moved, and I've been here ever since.
And so how old were you then when you made that move?
I guess I was 18 or 19.
Yeah. So like
I guess I was 19, and then I turned 20 that summer. So I moved at the beginning of 2003.
Yeah. When you finished high school, or like when you were finishing high school, you were already playing music. Mm-hmm. Were you thinking like, I don't want to go to college, I want to play music, I want to be in bands?
Yeah, I always liked school, but I kind of felt like it was secondary to playing music. And the band I was in at the time, kind of out of high school and beginning of college, was doing pretty well, but then my family moved, and I couldn't afford to stay where I was, so I moved with them and left my band behind, and was like, oh, maybe I'll find some other people to play with. And I just really didn't find anyone. We were living in Fort Worth, Texas, and met a couple friends, but nobody really to play music with. So when I met Luke and Jeff, and they had very similar ideas of what kind of band they wanted to be in, I kind of jumped on that idea, and it just felt right. Like being in Athens at that time just felt right. Like I didn't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
I just knew that I needed to be here, and this is where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. So
yeah,
I was more than happy to leave school or whatever, because I knew that I would much rather be playing music and be in Athens to do that. So.
I've been to so many different college towns and lived in so many different college towns because of bike racing, and Gainesville, Austin. Mm-hmm. It's borderline if you want to call Austin a college town, but
it's bigger. It's similar to Athens, but just a lot bigger, I think.
Northampton, where I lived for 10 or 12 years. Amherst, where I went to school. And Tucson it's hard to call. Tucson is dominated by the university, but it is bigger than that. It's a college city, let's call it. College is very important, but Athens is special. And I think all land grant colleges have a similar character, where it's all this culture that's plopped down in the middle of a rural area. And so it can get a little inbred, but it also like really grows a lot of creativity, and a bunch of people will sort of gravitate there and stay there. And I don't know. So Athens, cost of living is cheap. The weather's good. Yeah. There's a lot of counterculture. I think sometimes you get places that are surrounded by conservative areas, conservatism really push back hard against that.
Yeah. I think Austin is like that too, I think.
Salt Lake is like that. I'm always surprised at the alternative culture that exists in it. The more oppressive the place is, sometimes the stronger the pushback is and the better the scene is. And so maybe Athens can be like that.
Definitely.
And so how did We versus the Shark then happen? Like, how did the band form? Like, you guys moved to Athens and then what?
Yeah, I moved out here first and Luke was already living in Athens. So, in the couple months that we were waiting for Jeff to move down here, we were looking for a drummer and we were writing songs together. Luke and I wrote 5 songs together, and a friend of ours started having house shows that at a place now called the Kai House, or it was called Kai House, doesn't exist anymore. But he was like, "Hey, come play. You guys wrote some songs. Come play this house show." It was like a little house party with all of our friends. It was just like a really fun get together. We played those 5 songs just to kind of get a feel for it. We had a laptop as a drummer at the time and played those 5 songs. And at the end of it, everyone was like so into it that they made us play all the songs again. So that was like our first show. It was just Luke and I being like, "Hey, we wrote these songs, and then all of a sudden everybody loved it. And we were like, oh, okay, that's cool. So by the time Jeff moved down here, we already had fans. Our second show was with Mates of State in Atlanta. And was like this huge show. And they were really popular then. Yeah, they were really popular at the time. And I'm the World Trade Center. So it was like duo couples night that night. It was like Luke and I's band, and then I'm the World Trade Center and Mates of State at a big venue in Atlanta. And we're like, this is our second or third show. Like, what are we doing? Yeah. And Jeff hasn't even moved down there yet. So it just kind of blew up very quickly. And then a friend of ours introduced us to our drummer, Scott, and we played with him like once. And it was just this perfect match all around. So Jeff had moved down, and then Scott joined in, and it just kind of blew up really fast. I think to play so I'm going to talk about the band and what the band sounds like. Is there like, for the people who are live and who maybe haven't heard the band, is there a link that I could send them, like that I could drop in that they could like click on and listen to the band? Like, is there a SoundCloud or like? I know it's been a while, right? I know we're definitely on Spotify and YouTube and stuff like that. I don't know. Yeah. For people who are tuned in live, the band is We versus Shark, and I will put it in the comments. Yeah. Give it a quick Google and see if you can find some tracks and listen. For the kind of music that I like and the time that you guys are coming around, for people that like odd time signatures and like Fugazi kind of dancey and yes, like and there was a lot of like dance punk happening at that moment. Yeah, there was. Black Eyes. I think about like Q and Not You was a big Q one. And Not You. Yeah. So that's Dan Cody, who's left a couple comments. He and I are both big Discord fans, and like me too. Q and Not You for sure. Like, and I told you this, that sometimes it would come up in my shuffle. Like I'm listening to music when I'm riding a song come up, and I'd be like, who the fuck is this? This is amazing. Why don't I recognize? And then I would take my phone out of my pocket to see like what had come up in my shuffle that I apparently hadn't listened to enough to be immediately familiar with, but it was blown away by it every time that I'd have to go look, and I'd be like, God damn it. And then you pointed out to me that I actually only had the very first album. Yeah. That like I was missing 2 records, and I didn't even realize. Because then I never got to see you guys when I was in town, and then there was no band. Then the band stopped. Yeah. We were a band for 7 or 8 years probably. Yeah, I don't know why I never got a chance to see you guys. I mean, maybe because you weren't playing in Athens all that much in the month that I was in town. We were touring a lot. Yeah. So I want to talk about touring before we talk about Man or Astroman, and that transition. Because I think this is a big part of where the similarities between what we do as professional bike racers and what you do as a professional musician happen. To me, the lifestyles are very similar. Like, you haven't quit your day job, although, so when you were at We versus Shark, you're still working at the coffee shop. You still had to have a paycheck. The band was not obviously paying your bills at that point. We were lucky to break even on tour, and we were happy when we broke even on tour. We made enough money to pay for gas and feed ourselves. And when we came home, we still had to go right to work. So
yeah,
and that's the trouble with being in an indie band, I think, is you tour and you sell merch and you try to make enough money to make it to the next show, and I think that's still a problem, being a professional musician. Like very few, like maybe 2% of professional musicians make enough money to only do that.
It's the same for bike racers, and it's almost like you start off as an amateur and you think that you're good enough to be a professional, but you have to get out there and prove that to people.
Yeah.
And at certain times in the development of the sport, there's a point now where if you're good, people will notice, and there's a development pipeline that you can get sucked into. But in the 90s, that didn't exist. And for most of the 2000s, it was sort of forming. And so if you wanted to, quote unquote, turn pro, you had to get in the van. You had to go in, you had to get in your car and hope that you made enough prize money at the race that you were doing to get to the next race. And you slept, like I joked today on the internet that I had, this is a true story, but I was joking about it, but I had an 84, my second car was an 84 Toyota Tercel. And I had a trifold futon that I kept in the back seat. Because this is before the days of air mattresses. Like, I don't know how we lived on the road without air mattresses, but I literally had a futon that lived in the back seat of my little Tercel. And I don't know, you left home to go on the circuit. You went on tour, basically, much like you guys did.
But like we did sleep on friends' floors. We had sleeping bags and slept in a van a lot of nights.
Do you remember thermarests? Did you guys ever have thermarests?
No, we weren't that fancy. I remember upgrading my sleeping bag to like a memory foam sleeping bag. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to sleep good tonight.
Right. So it's like, you love what you're doing and you want to do it. And if there's an opportunity to get paid, even just enough to do it, like that seems like an amazing proposition, right? Yeah. But I guess that only goes so far. And either at some point you are making enough that you can do it full time, or you have to pursue something else. I suppose it's very easy to be in the middle, and maybe you're in the middle right now where you did start, and we'll talk about this in a second, where you did start to pursue a more, let's call it a more reliable career.
Yeah. Right.
But then music is still going, let's call it, say, going well for you, or it's promising, or it's engaging for you. It's worth doing. There are definitely people, especially in college towns, who will always only work 10 or 20 hours a week so that they continue to do their hobby. And that's a lifestyle choice, which, I mean, there's no judgment there. Like, that's what, ski bums do. There's plenty of bike racers who live that way. Like, what? No one, that sounds great. Like, maybe you're not saving for the long term in that scenario. You're not going to buy a house or start a family on that income, but it's not a bad way to live if you can make it work. But so when you and I talked about this privately, you said, I didn't know the story of how the band ended. I only knew that you were going to nursing school. And so I knew that, without even having to talk to you, that if you had decided to go to nursing school, it meant that you were making some kind of choice about music.
Yeah. So nursing school came later. What actually happened was I got really burned out on touring and being broke all the time, and kind of the direction of the band changed a little bit, and the boys were writing songs without me, and they were starting to write things that I didn't really want to be doing. And I think I got to a point, I was also like booking a lot of the tours and doing all the driving, and I was kind of wearing myself thin with the band. Like at that point, we should have hired a tour manager. We should have hired a booking agent, but we were kind of like, we were stubborn and wanted to keep doing it DIY, and, wanted to keep it that way. But then we really shouldn't have done it, because I got really burnt out and I was just unhappy all the time. So there were a couple of tours I went on. I stopped liking touring. I stopped liking playing music, and I just got to a point where I was really unhappy. So I thought at that point that I just needed a big change. So that's kind of how the band ended, was that I needed a change, and the change was that I would stop playing with them. So then I decided to go to school and try and finish that. And I did that, and then realized that I needed music in my life again. So but that's where Manor Astroman came in, and they kind of had perfect timing and saved my music career as it was, I think.
Well, So before we jump to that, because obviously, like, I'm excited to talk about that. When you left the band, well, so I have two follow-ups to that. One is, a band is a relationship. It's a group of friends, just like a team is. But it also is a small business, for better or for worse. And I think one of the things that I realized coming out of like the 80s punk scene and the DIY ethic, and why Discord is such a model for me, is DIY punk is entrepreneurial. It has an entrepreneurial, strong entrepreneurial aspect to it that I was engaged in, and that anyone who's in a punk band is engaged in without realizing it, without understanding it. That I thought I didn't understand when I was younger that you could be anti-capitalist and entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And that's the essence of DIY punk, whatever it is that you're doing, if you're making zines or you're in a band. And so I see you as having gotten to this point where your small business needed more employees.
Yeah.
And businesses fold because of founder syndrome, because you've reached the capacity of what the business can do with the employees it currently has. And your job is to make music, not necessarily to be the travel agent.
Right.
You needed to hire a travel agent. And you did do that. And so things implode because you start hating your job because you're not doing the part of the job that you like.
Right. That's exactly what happened. And it just became, I guess I just got overwhelmed, and my reaction was just to stop playing. And we had also been touring. I had been touring since I was 17. Right. So I had been touring at that point for 10 years and kind of in the same routine of touring and coming home broke and then working in the coffee shop and doing that for so long that I just got so burnt out on it.
Yeah. And so first nursing school, but then also, first nutrition at UGA, but then nursing school, gave you that break and perspective. And so let's go back. So then, well, no, before we go ahead. So the band didn't continue without you was the other point I wanted to make. They did. They
did for about a year. They toured for a little bit and then decided
did they replace you, or did they just do it with one guitarist?
They did like a couple tours with a different guitar player, but then realized that that's not how they wanted to keep playing. So,
yeah. And you obviously must have. Well, if you didn't at least remain friends with them, you are obviously friends with them now, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, we're all still great friends, and
yeah. So let's segue into Man or Astroman and how that came up, because I remember, I don't think I was in Athens at the time, but I was obviously around and coming to town, and then I saw it on the internet. I don't think I didn't see you in person, but for me, it was like you got hired by like a real pro team.
Yeah.
Like you're in Man or Astroman. Like you've done it. Like damn, you've made it. And I realize that's an exaggeration, because even a band that I like as much as Man or Astroman, or as popular as Man or Astroman, no one's full time, right? Like, is anyone actually? Everybody has jobs, right?
Everybody has a family or jobs. Yeah. Other things.
You wasn't like you were in the Cult and you got called up to Guns N' Roses or whatever, right? Isn't that how it went? Didn't the drummer from the Cult? I'm sure that's what happened. He's the drummer for Guns N' Roses.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And it's not like that. We're not talking about that scale. But for me, it was like, you're in band. Like
that was a lot of people's reactions when I told them that I was going to be in Man or Astroman. Yeah. It was like a big deal in Athens, and I didn't realize at the time. I had heard of them, but I wasn't like some huge super fan or anything like that.
I was.
But after like the second show, I realized what I got myself into. And I was like, oh God, this is way bigger than I ever thought I was going to be. So,
well, so how did it happen then? If you weren't already a big fan, like what were the connections? How did it happen?
So the other guitar player, Brian, lives in Athens. The band actually briefly lived in Athens years and years ago. So Brian lived here.
They're based in Birmingham, right? The band's based in Birmingham?
They started in Auburn. We're not really based anywhere now. Our drummer still lives in Birmingham. Our bass player lives in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So about 6 years ago, so they took a long break in the middle. Maybe like, I guess I started playing again almost 6 years ago. they did a touch and go reunion show, realized that they still really liked playing together and wanted to keep going. Their other guitar player that I replaced got sick and then also had a family. And so he was unable to keep playing with them. So they were looking for a new guitar player. They wanted to keep touring and playing and writing. And so their guitar player and their drummer had seen We Versus the Shark play. And our drummer also owned this club in Birmingham at the time called Bottle Tree, which if you have ever been to Birmingham or seen a band in Birmingham, you've probably been to the Bottle Tree. It doesn't exist anymore. They closed last year, but it was a really, really awesome venue to play. And it was one of the first venues Sharks played where, I mean, everybody just treats the bands there with so much respect. And it can be like any band. You don't have to be a big band to play there, but you would go and play and feel like royalty there. And that place really stuck out. And it was a big deal, especially for Birmingham. That venue was very meaningful to Birmingham and to Sharks too. Like Sharks were like, Birmingham was like our second home.
It's a great place.
We played all the time, and like people, we just made so many good friends there. And people, I still get recognized. Of all the places we play, I get recognized in Birmingham for Sharks more than anywhere else in the country.
Yeah.
So anyway, so both of the Bryans had seen We Versus the Shark play in the past, and they were just looking for another guitar player, and my name came up. And I was traveling at the time and just happened to get a Facebook message from Brian that was like, Man or Astroman's looking for another guitar player. You interested? And I was like, what? I was like, is this real? Like, I didn't know. I hadn't met him. I didn't know any of them. And I was like,
but you were at least familiar enough with the band to know like, hey, this is a good gig. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had asked a couple friends, I was like, hey, do you know Man or Astroman? And they're like, yeah, do you not know them? Like, what? They're huge. Like, what are you talking about? And I was like, they want me to play guitar for them. And they're like, what? Are you, what?
Is this a practical joke?
Yeah. I kind of thought it was a joke at first. And then I met up with Brian and we got a drink and talked about things. And that was right when I was starting nursing school. So I was like, I'm starting nursing school. Do you have tour dates, or like, what do you have? He sent me the tour dates for like the whole fall, and they happened to line up perfectly with all of my breaks in school.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point I had stopped. I hadn't played music in a couple of years and was kind of getting the itch again. And it just happened to work out so perfectly that I couldn't say no. And I was like, like, I need to do this. He was like, hey, our first show is going to be in Spain. Like, he was just throwing all this stuff at me. And I was like, what? Huh? What? So I kind of couldn't say no, and
I think the fact that they probably all have families and like home lives and there is no base for the band really worked in your favor too, because it was okay that you had something up, and their schedule's not dense, right?
No.
They don't leave for 6 months and come home. Right?
It used to be like that when they toured full time in the 90s and early 2000s. Like it was a full-time thing for all of them, but now, I mean, they've been a band for 20 years, 25 years or something. Now it's not. Now it's for fun and because they want to do it, and they kind of make it work. They make it work with all of our lives now, like.
Yeah. I feel like they're popular enough and they have enough legacy fans. They really can pop up almost anywhere and fill a venue, and it's a treat. People are psyched. It feels like a privilege whether you've seen them. If you've seen them, it feels like a privilege because it's such an amazing show. And if you haven't seen them, you're like, oh my God, I'm finally getting to see Man or Astroman. I sent you that link from the show that Dan and I went to in 1996. It's amazing that Dan found that. When we saw them in 1996, it was still the original four guys, and they were still 100% committed to the shtick. Like, they were in full character.
Yep.
The one dude, I don't know who was who at this point, had his space helmet
probably
on.
Coco. Coco still has that helmet, that space suit.
Did not take it off. Did not break character. And then I don't know whose costume is the the pilot, the like NASA pilot type.
That was Dexter. I am him now.
Okay.
So my role in the band as second guitar player has been replaced multiple times. So I think who you're thinking of, I think that's Dexter.
he never broke character. Like, and I've seen you do this.
It's very robotic or something.
You do that. You look in certain spots and you have to, and that was the whole show. It was relentless. And it was so good that they were like married to the concept and they weren't ever gonna, there was no winking. There was no like, hey guys, like we know we're not actually from space.
Yeah, especially Coco on stage, like you believe it from him.
It's great. And that's so much. At that point they were very vested in the show, like the stage setup, the they tubes,
always have been,
and the TVs and the screen projector going in the back. And in a small club, it really works so well. That was just, and at that time, 96, like everybody who came to the show, including me, we all had suits on. Everybody was wearing suits at that
People
time.
Still
it was
do
like,
that, yeah.
It was like just after ska, and we were still like a little mod, like hanging on to it. And so it felt like this collective consciousness thing where like I showed up in a suit and then couldn't believe that everyone had shown up in a suit.
Yeah.
And I was like, something is happening right now. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's why I have such affinity for the band, and part of why I was so excited for you. Because I was like, I just was like, this is amazing. But then the band is amazing. And you're an amazing guitar player. Like, not everyone could do that job. And then in watching the live shows, like, you really shred and you really are dynamic when you play. Like, you obviously know the song super, super well. And like your anticipation of what you're playing, like you can dance and you can play
only
and dance
with a guitar. Only with a guitar.
Oh, really? Like a hockey player who can't skate without a stick?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't ask me to dance or do anything without a guitar on stage, because that's my safety net.
Funny. Well, like the clip that I put, for people who haven't seen it, if you go to the Myerson Line page on Facebook, I posted the show from 2014.
I think we're in France at that show, right?
You're center stage. Which I'm not sure if you always are, but in this,
sometimes Coco can't tour with us, so when he can't tour, we get another person to play bass, and then they put me in the middle. They put me in the spotlight.
You're in the middle, and you're absolutely killing it, and it's really great. One of the guitar players looks like Stephen King, and it's unsettling. Who's that?
It's probably Star Crunch. He's the lead guitar player.
It's like he looks like this. Like,
I've never thought about that. I guess he kind of.
Oh yeah, now you're ruined. Now you're new. I don't see him up close. I only see him like in show.
Yeah, I don't think up close he looks like Steve. Maybe.
I'll
tell him you said that.
Oh, there's no way he hasn't heard it before.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, you can tell him I said that. So when you guys play, it's like obviously like. You have like excited, loyal fans. It's got to be great. It's got to be really enjoyable. But it also, those songs can't have been easy to learn and easy to play. It looks like hard work to me.
At this point, I guess I don't remember learning them too much because I've been in the band almost 5 years now. So I'm in the band.
Well, so what happened when they when they hired you and they were like, we're going to go on tour. You haven't been playing in 2 years. You have a month to learn these 20 songs?
I had a month to learn about 30 songs. And I learned them all. I stressed out about it. And he's like, we're going to have multiple practices before we play. Don't worry about it. Like, and he was pretty open with it. Like some of the songs didn't even have a second guitar on them. And he's like, oh, just play something. Just play whatever you want. And I was like, what? Really? Okay. I was like sitting in my room, like playing. I was like, I hope this is okay. And showed up for the first practice and met the bass player and the drummer for the first time. Like going to a band practice and meeting your bandmates for the first time is very weird too. Because you're like, what if they're mean, or what if they don't like me, or what if I play the wrong thing? You know, I didn't really know like what the environment was going to be like at all. Like I had met Brian and got along with him and it was great. But I was like, I haven't even met these other two guys and we're about to like fly to Spain together and play these shows. Like it was very surreal. but they're all awesome. And they're just immediately like had a connection and got along, and everybody was really sweet. So we ended up having, we were supposed to have multiple practices. I think we maybe practiced twice. And then we played a show in Atlanta and then flew to Spain and played a show with Nada Surf and Matthew Sweet. That was like my first weekend of shows with them.
Oh, that's great. And Matthew Sweet's great.
I think it didn't hit me till like I was on a plane flying to Madrid, where I was like, oh shit, what am I doing? Like, where am I going right now? Like what? And I just started nursing school too. So I was like, that was like my first, I think that was the weekend before I started nursing school. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm going to go to Spain and play a show before I start school.
So you went,
it was very surreal. It was,
yeah. And you went from being, the only woman in a band full of guys that you, ostensibly were a founding member of, and then at some point that not being that enjoyable to you, to going to another band, where you were the only woman in a band full of guys, but in a different setting, because everybody's a little bit older and they're established, like you said, adults with families. Was the atmosphere different? I mean, obviously the atmosphere is different. How was the atmosphere different? How you sounded like you were much more comfortable, let's say.
I wasn't at first. I was nervous, and playing a show with people that you don't know is definitely different. I mean, I knew the guys in Sharks for forever. We were really good friends. We were close. We could just like, when writing together, we could just say like, oh, that's shitty, don't write that. Like you could be really honest with each other and be open. And then it changed for me because I went into this band that was already established and had, they'd been a band already for like 20 years when I joined, like that's some major history. And I'm like this new person who's like, hey, I'm your new guitar player. So it was definitely different. But they were so open and welcoming, and they're all like such sweethearts, and they really wanted me to be in the band and have a good time. And, it was a very encouraging environment. So it was good for me because I had not played music in a couple of years, and then all of a sudden I'm playing to like these huge crowds and was nervous, and they were like, yeah, don't worry, you're doing great. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. You're going to be fun, kid.
Yeah.
And you were.
Yeah. And here 5 years later, and I'm a real member of the band. And because at first they were just like, I think we're just going to do a couple tours and whatever. And, if you could do it with us, that'd be great. And now it's 5 years later, and we've recorded an album together, and we're working on new stuff and still touring. And I'm like a real member of the band. Like I'm in the band now. It's crazy.
I was going to ask you about like new material and if you were involved with the writing process for new material coming out. So were you on the last record? I wasn't sure about that. Did you come in after?
I was on the last record. We flew to.
I'm gonna drop it.
I mean, we all kind of practiced the new stuff.
I'm trying to drop in. Nope. Okay, that's okay. Yep, I put the link. I dropped the link in.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, look at this. Let's watch this for a second.
This is also in France. I look pretty cool in this video.
You look very cool in this video.
I'm not that cool really in real life.
Turn it down slightly. It's a little bit experimental for me with Blab and dropping that in. You can't tell me he doesn't look like Stephen King right there.
Yeah, he does.
So I'll let this go quietly, right? So I love this. Like you're totally destroying it. And I feel bad for the people who are hearing this on the podcast and can't watch this. They've got to go to the Myerson Line Facebook page and watch this clip.
It's a good video.
It's so good. You're so committed right here. You're absolutely giving it like 100%. To be.
I mean, and in that moment on stage that you can't do anything but that, And that's what I do. I mean, that's when I'm on stage, that's who I am. Like that's me.
It's
Jet just
it's a great
I think I might be the longest lasting second guitar player. Yes. 5 years at this point.
This is like Exploding Drummers. Is this an Exploding Drummers joke?
Yeah, they've replaced their second guitar player multiple times. They're not getting rid of me though.
How do you get your official stage name? So like I realize now like the shtick is like less 100%, but you do have Ivana Nova is your.
That's it. It's a palindrome. Yep.
Yeah. How did it happen? How does that happen?
We just brainstormed, and I have a whole list of names that we could have picked. I went with that one because the very first band I was in when I was 15 was called Nova Goes Ballistic, and we were like a punk ska band, and I was in high school, and that's what we were called. So it's kind of an homage to my very first band that I was in with that in the name. So
that is some serious science dorky band name right there.
I know, right?
Nova Goes Ballistic. That's great.
Yes.
When we were talking a little bit, when I first asked you to be on the podcast, we were talking a little bit about having a career as a musician and being in a band like Man or Astroman. And we talked a little bit about what people would describe as like imposter syndrome, about the feeling that you sometimes have, that lots of people have, that I shared, like where I had experienced it as well. But this idea that you're playing some kind of big joke on everybody, like they're going to find out that you're not actually as good at what you do as they think you are. And that you don't have the same impression of yourself that people on the outside do. So I find what you do incredible and admirable, and I appreciate your talent. And then you're like, I'm not sure if I'm really that good of a musician. And I know for me it was like with coaching, like, as I explained to you when we talked, like when I first started coaching, I was like, you want to pay me money to tell you
for what? Like, really?
Yeah, like I don't understand. And it took me years of being a professional coach and taking money and even like watching improvement in my athletes before I finally started to believe that I actually knew what I was talking about, and it was okay for me to give people advice. I mean, I was in business for probably 5 years as a professional coach before I finally thought that I was good enough to actually be a coach and believe it. And I was surprised to hear that you, I won't say are still struggling with that, but are still having those feelings.
I do. And I think a lot of artists do. And I actually was thinking about it earlier because I feel that way in my nursing career as well. I think, and I've read a lot about nurses feeling that way too, I think it happens a lot in the nursing, in the medical field. And then it also happens with artists and musicians. And I have both of that in my life. So it's like the double, like I know that I am qualified as a nurse and I went to school for it. But when I work as a nurse, I feel like, how did I get this license? Like I'm doing all these things. I feel like I don't know enough ever. And I feel that with music sometimes too. But being in Man or Astroman has definitely boosted that confidence in me and made me feel like this is actually what I should be doing and that I'm good at it. And but yeah, I think that self-doubt is pretty common with artists, and I mean really any professional, like I'm sure everyone at some point in their professional career is like, am I really good at this? Like, is this really what I should be doing or I'm good at, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do deal with that in a lot of aspects of my life.
I think people do.
Not just
you get there. Well, no, but I think you do something for long enough and you have enough success at it. I think you even if you're a perfectionist, get there, and when you get there, it's such a relief. But I think a big part of how you get there is, at least for me, it was at some point I understood that nobody knew what they were doing, that everyone was winging it, everyone. And every successful person I met was an idiot in some way that was always surprising to me. And I'd always be like, oh, like it's not that being successful is not actually that special or that hard. Yeah. You just have to be able to wing it better than other people and trust your instincts and hopefully then your talent. That's where your talent, I think, where one's talent really shows is their ability to fly by the seat of their pants and pull shit off.
Well, I think that's experience.
And you do that every time you get on stage.
Like after playing music as long as I have, after being on stage and having to wing it, that's just experience, and like not being uncomfortable with that, like just kind of going with it, you know, that's just
trusting your talent,
having that experience to like be able to do that.
Well, Dan asked if any of the Man or Astroman music was written down. Did you get any written music? I mean,
no.
Did they have it written down anywhere?
At the first practice we had, I had to reteach Coco some of his bass lines. He's like, oh, you know how to play that song? Or they were like, hey, what songs do you know how to play? And I was like, I have a list of 30 songs. And they're like, oh, we haven't played half of those in like years. Like, here, how does that one go? So like in the first practice, amazing. I was like, wait, I'm teaching you how to play this song. So yeah, no, nothing was written down. I got
that's amazing.
A list of songs. I think Brian made me a mix CD. He was like, here's some songs that we might play. Like if you could learn some of them. And then of course I'm OCD enough that I was like, I'm learning all of these songs. And yeah.
Right. Yeah. You study for everything that's got that might be on the exam.
You know all of these songs? And I was like, yeah. They're like, oh, all right. Okay. Yeah, they're like, oh, I guess I should learn those songs too.
It up. We better keep up with the new hair. This reminds me of the scene in Purple Rain where like Prince is pulling his house apart because he's all mad because his dad shot his mom, and then he finds all his dad's sheet music, and of course his dad had said to him, Prince said, you know, caught him playing and said, "You write any of these down?" And his dad said, "That's the difference between you and me. I don't write anything down." And of course, Prince discovers later he wrote it all down, and so maybe you can have that moment. And of course, it's a good segue for Prince. When I watch Purple Rain, I'm kind of annoying because I recite the dialogue before it happens every time. Like the scene comes, and I'll turn to Janice and tell her the dialogue that's about to happen. So I realized I just did that in a sense with you, where like I knew all of the scenes leading up to Prince finding his dad's sheet music. But
I know.
What a bummer day with Prince dying. I feel like I can't have you on and not talk about it a little bit. Do you have, obviously, I mean,
of course
I'd be mad at you if you weren't a Prince fan.
Of course I am.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Prince song?
I don't know about a favorite. I don't really have a favorite anything. I know that's a weird thing to say, but like, I don't think I could pick a favorite. Sharks actually, we talked about doing a Prince cover for a long time, and none of us could decide like which song was the best one to cover. So we just never did it because we couldn't decide which one we could. We just wanted to do all of them, kind of, you know. So yeah, we almost did a Prince cover, but we just could never decide on which one would be best because they're all so good.
He's my number one favorite musician, like soundtrack of my life from childhood on. I know like everybody's emoting about it right now and obviously influenced everybody, but it feels more special to me. I don't know how to express that to people. Like, I feel like a lot of people have recognized that. And I got a lot of nice messages on the internet as if like a family member of mine had died. But I think I talk about Prince so much that everybody already knows, you know? And I looked at it's like 10 years ago. I still have a Last FM profile. I still like log all of my listen. Well, I love the stats. I love seeing it, like what comes up. So I keep it going, but the musician I've listened to most is Prince by like 1,000 plays, you know, more than the Smiths.
Do you have
more
a
than
favorite
the Cure.
Prince song?
More. I think Erotic City is probably my favorite Prince song because it's like, it's one of the funkiest songs. Yeah. It's one of the dirtiest songs. It's got such an awesome groove. He uses his multiple voices. You know, Prince has that shtick where like he sings in 3, not just octaves, but speeds. And he'll actually speed up and slow down his voice in the studio to get some of those sounds. And a lot of that happens in Erotic City. And it's just such a fucking jam. I've put that on so many mix CDs for people that I liked over the years. It's inevitable, I feel like, because it captures so much good feeling. I think 17 Days is also one of my favorites. It's it swings a little bit more. It's a little bit more of it's a melancholy. It's a upbeat.
I like that
melancholy song, which is something Prince is really good at. Yeah, it's good. Pretty much all of the Purple Rain songs will make me cry depending on what's happening at that moment. You know, like the beautiful. I'll stop what I'm doing when the beautiful ones come on. If like it's on the radio, like I'll have to excuse myself. It, you know, when it gets to like, do you want him or do you want me? Because I want you. I'm like, I have to lay down on the floor usually. Always. So, what a bummer. I want to maybe start wrapping it up by going back talking about We versus the Shark, because you said you guys are writing these songs.
It's a secret.
Like what's going on there? Oh,
it's okay. You just blab my secret on the internet.
I didn't know it was a secret.
It's all right.
Well, if you're telling me, I feel very privileged now, but you told me, so why would I think it was a secret? I thought it was sort of like an open secret.
I won't get into too much
detail.
You just so our drummer lived in California for the past few years, and he just recently moved back to Atlanta for his job. So he's in Athens a lot more, and Luke and I are still in Athens, and we're all still really good friends. And we've been playing with the idea of, writing together again. So nobody who's listening, don't spread the word. I don't think any of them are listening right now, so hopefully I won't get into trouble for this.
Will you guys play out, you think, even before you have new songs? Like,
there's interest, but
in playing
not
the show
until we have stuff written. It won't be a reunion show where we play old songs. If that happens, it'll be all new stuff, and us being older and not wanting to play old songs, wanting to be this new version of what we are, just because we really like playing together. And I really think that the four of us are like musical soulmates in this way, where like we've all played with other people and we always come back to each other. Or we're like, you know, I'll write with someone and I'll be like,
that's great.
That's great. But I really think like Scott would have written a better like drum part for this, or, you know, like I think we all kind of have that feeling towards each other. So there's this mutual love between all of us.
And that's great.
The music we all write and share. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. No one would blame you or be unhappy if you did a reunion show. Because I think it's like, because your fans are your friends too. And I don't mean that you only have, the only fans you have are your friends. I think you have, your friends have an affinity for you in a way that they would not scoff. They would not be like, reunion show.
It would be different, I think.
Yeah, I think everybody would be like, oh my God, the gang is back together. Like,
I think so.
Excited about it. I would like to see it since I didn't in the first place. But of course, like perfectly understood that you don't want to, you're not trying to rehash the past. You're trying to get this group together. It reminds me of Rites of Spring and Happy Go Licky. Like it's the same four people, but maybe you need a new name for the band if you're going to do something. Sorry for these obscure references for the people who don't.
Rites of Spring.
Yeah. No, I mean, you might get it, but half of the listeners might not. Yeah. They got back together later with the same members. And a new band. Okay. Yeah. No, they changed the name. Even though it was the same band members, they decided to actually get back together, but with a different band, which is a very Discord thing to do.
But at the same time, if you're doing something different, it kind of makes sense to change the name. Otherwise, you'll get more like disappointment sometimes, you know, when people are like, oh, this band is going to play this, like my favorite song, and then they don't play that song, and then you're bummed out about it. So it's
right. When Rollins tours, as an example, he will only play his current record. He, as a rule, he doesn't play, which is really hard to take if there's, you know, songs from the catalog that you love and you want to hear, but it's a hard thing not to respect. Like he wants to be in the moment of the music that he's currently making. Yeah. So, well, I look forward to that. And I'll try not to talk about it anymore.
Yes. Nobody.
You're all sworn to secrecy. Apologize to the rest of
I did want to answer this question. Someone posted about Octopus Project. Yeah, touring with Octopus Project.
Oh, I didn't see it.
They are amazing people.
How was touring
and
with the
I don't
Octopus
know
Project?
if people know this, but we've done a couple tours where 3/4 of the members of Octopus Project were actually in Man or Astroman. So it'd be like where Coco couldn't tour with us, we'd have to get another bass player. But it just made sense for Yvonne and Josh and Toto to just be in the band with us. So we kind of did this hybrid a couple times where I would play guitar, and then Josh from Octopus Project would play bass, and Yvonne would play keys and samples, and Toto did an amazing job on the lights. So we met them and toured, and then we also like loved each other so much that we like incorporated them into our band. So they're amazing people. And if you haven't heard Octopus Project, go listen to them because they do such amazing things, and they record all their own records in their own studio. They like make all their own merch. They're like the hardest working people I've ever met in my life, and they're all super, super sweethearts. So they're in Austin.
And where are they based? Where do they live?
But yeah, if you get a chance to see them, their live show is amazing, and they will hug you after the show. And they're really like the hardest working musicians and the most talented people. And it's like they're so sweet. So I wanted to answer that question because I just wanted to like gush about them for a second. And I miss them all the time. Every tour I'm on. Like I like text them. We still text each other all the time about anytime any of us are on tour. We're like, I miss you, or like we'll see something that reminds us of each other. And yeah, they're good friends of mine, very, very good people.
Well, I have one more question along those same lines, and then we'll stop there. Because I realized we could have talked about it earlier and we kind of left out. But you just played a show at Third Man, and for people who don't know Third Man Records, it's Jack White's record label.
It's in Nashville.
And it's in Nashville? Yep. It's in Nashville, right? Where is it? Yeah. And so the show looked amazing. I posted a clip from it again on the Facebook page. It looks super cool. I imagine it's a really, I mean, I've seen other clips of the space. The space looks amazing. It's got to be a really just regardless of what you think of Jack White, like his taste is impeccable. And part of why I love the White Stripes, even now when I go back and listen to it, like his ability to hear things and transmute them, transform them, play them back for you, all of his influences, almost better than how he heard them the first time. Like I really like forget about all the bullshit. Like I really love the White Stripes.
They're classic.
And I like Jack White a lot. I like his taste. It's amazing, right? And so the space, you can see that in the space. And I saw that you guys the show got recorded
like less than 20 people have done that. But and I don't know that there's anywhere else in the country that has the capability to do that. So we got to see the whole like inner workings of how you can actually record live to acetate, and it was awesome. It was like such a cool experience, and I felt very lucky to be a part of that. But just like everyone at Third Man was so nice. Like just all the employees were so happy to be there and super excited for the show, and the sound engineers were so like they were so nerdy about the whole thing. Like they're just so into what they do, and they're so good at it. And we actually ended the live show with the Tesla coil, so that's on the record, and that's like how the record ends. You can hear the Tesla coil and the guitar feedback, and that's how it ends. And after the show, we went back to listen to like the last little part of it, and they were just like, that was so cool, like there's lightning on the record. Like it was just like a big deal. And it was a little nerve-wracking because like the second you start playing, you're like, this is being recorded immediately. And like, you know, like there's no, like, you don't get any guitar dubs or anything like that. It's just like straight, like whatever you play, it's going on. It took me a minute to like stop thinking about it being recorded. But yeah, that whole experience was super, super cool. And I feel very lucky to have been a part of it. So.
Are presses of that record going to be made available?
I think they're going to do a limited, maybe like 300 prints. And those are only available to the people who are at the show. But after that, they will press it just in black vinyl, and it'll be available for sale eventually. It takes a little while. Like they record to acetate, and then they have to send it to the press. So it'll take anywhere from 4 to 8 months or something to get the first run. So yeah. Me too. I haven't heard all of it yet, so I'm like,
keep us posted.
Like, I don't think I
bet.
hit any like
Sounds
super
amazing.
chords or anything, but I guess I'll find out when I get the record and I listen to it.
I feel like musicians always hear the mistakes that nobody else hears. Like we can't. It sounds great to us, but Okay, so we'll close on this last question. Favorite Ike and Jane donut and your favorite one to make. I don't think I have a favorite. Yeah. Going back to it's too hard to pick favorites. Like I definitely, if we come in for donuts and I'm excited for donuts, like I definitely want.
I know you never get
right. I don't understand.
I make so many donuts, and
I know. I get there. I feel like when you know I'm coming, I'll
save you some. Yeah.
I feel like you've made like extra before. Yeah, and they're gone. But I always like. If I'm in the mood, like I want an over-the-top donut. Like I want cereal on it, and like I want it to be like, something stacked up high. But then also, I feel like, your traditional like red velvet donut, like chocolate covered red velvet, is always
and my
pretty.
Favorite is the blueberry cake.
So,
but it's like so classic and so delicious, and making them is fun. But I always go for blueberry cake.
Yeah. That's donuts are a good note to close on. So Athens is coming up. It's in 2 weeks. It's a week later than normal. I don't think I'm going to make it. It looks like I'm not going to make it down. I'm obviously not traveling this year, but I wanted to see if I could still make a couple trips to the races that I love and that are important to me. And so I don't know, it feels like the end of an era. I'm not going to see it at twilight time. So I'm glad you got to.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if that make you feel better or worse, but I mean, you can send me pictures of donuts that I don't actually get to eat anyway, because they're always gone by the time I get there. But at least getting you on here was great, and it's good to keep those Athens connections alive for me. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and talk to the rest of the folks listening on the podcast. Oh, and I should mention our theme song is a We versus the Sharks song. So for those of you who are listening to the podcast, you will hear the intro and outro, and that is a We versus the Sharks song. I actually just forgot the name of the song that we used.
I think you told me, but I don't remember.
I'm blanking on the name of the song. I'll mention it later. I can. Yeah.
Was it?
You want to?
Let's see.
It's fun.
I think you texted it to me, and I don't know how to find it.
Very anticlimactic now as we talk about it, because when we close out, they will actually hear it. But here, I will.
Mountaineering. I'm destined for greatness.
Right. Yep. Yes, I am destined because I did put mountaineering on a song I made for somebody. That was the conversation we were having. So yes, enjoy that now, folks, as we say goodbye. That is We versus Shark that you will hear on the outro.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Sam.